Hello and welcome to Tech Deals, MSI's NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 3GB Gaming X graphics card. What is this? Why should you watch and why should you care? Well, in short, if you want to play all current games at Full HD or 1080p resolution, at high detail or better, at a smooth 60 frames per second, then you've come to the right place because this card will do it. Roughly $200. This card has recently had a price drop and it is now a really good value, at least in November of 2016 when I am filming this. Now, if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. Linked in the video description below will be my previous reviews of GTX 1060 cards. I won't do too much comparison in this video, but suffice it to say I've reviewed other 1060 cards in the past. EVGA, Zotac, Asus, those will be linked in the description below. Now, this is the second 3GB card that I have. I have a couple of 6GB cards, and I've done a previous video comparing the pros and cons between the 3 and the 6GB card. Now, MSI makes this in a 6GB version as well, and depending upon the price, it might be worth considering. Linked in the description below to both Amazon and Newegg will be the 3 and 6GB versions of this card, as well as the complete list of all 1060s. Why? Because you may not want this specific card. Maybe you're looking for a 1060 in general. So I'll put the whole list there, price sorted lowest to highest, so you can see what the best available offer is at the moment if you don't need this specific card. However, the reason why this is here is quite simply because this is the exact opposite of the card that I previously recommended in my which GTX 1060 card should you buy, which was the EVGA Superclocked. It is a small, lightweight, single fan card, relatively inexpensive at about $200 for the 3GB or $250 for the 6GB. It fits into most pre-built machines and it's a great card. This is big, overclocked, tall, dual fans, 8-pin PCI Express power connector. It's everything the little superclocked card is not. Now, the superclocked card is what I would recommend and still recommend if you have a basic pre-built machine. If you have a Lenovo, HP, Dell, Asus, Acer computer and it comes in a small mini tower case about this tall, this may not fit. For that kind of machine, you want the smaller graphics card with the single fan. It'll be much easier to put in. It'll be more compatible with more power supplies. That's what you want to go with. However, if you have a custom build machine or something with a medium tower or larger case, this is an interesting option. When the 1060s first came out, the MSI Gaming X was about $30 more expensive than the other cards. The prices dropped. Again, prices change all the time, but at least in November when I'm filming this, this card is now just over $200. At that price, this is a deal. It comes with several features that most 1060s don't. Now, it's factory overclocked, which is great, but it can be overclocked further. It has RGB lighting on it, and I'll show you what that looks like later on, and it does have 2 large fans. Very quiet. Should potentially be overclockable more than maybe the basic cards are, but the only way to find out is to actually try it. So in an upcoming video, I am going to pit the small single fan EVGA Superclocked card against the big honkin' Gaming X card. I'm going to install them both on the same machine, run them at their factory settings, and then I will overclock them above those settings to see whether or not the large cooler and the 8-pin PCI Express power connector really makes a difference. So if you've not subscribed to my channel, please click the big red button below to subscribe to my channel to get notified when that comes out. Let's see whether games like Rise of the Tomb Raider, Battlefield 1, etc. actually run any better on the MSI Gaming X with the 2 big fans and the oversized printed circuit board or PCB compared to the small basic superclocked EVGA card that you can also get now for about the same price as this card. Speaking of 8-pin PCI Express power connectors, this is a topic I've discussed many times with video cards. This requires an 8-pin. Most 1060s require a 6-pin. Putting aside whether that helps or not, because I won't know until I actually test it. Notice the box is shrink wrapped, so needless to say, at the time I'm filming this video, I've not tried it. I will take this home, I will stick it in and find out very soon. If you need a power supply, this is actually all you need. I see many times people saying, well, do I need to buy a 5 or 6 or 800 watt power supply? Do I need to buy some modular gold rated super expensive power supply? No, that's overkill. The GTX 1060 is primarily designed to be a 120 watt card. Even an i7 6700K Intel CPU is only about 100 watts, a little less actually. Put those two together, that's 220. Add another 30 watts for the motherboard and RAM. Let's be generous and say another 25 watts for a DVD player, Wi-Fi adapter, a hard drive, SSD, and everything else, and you're still not even at 300 watts. If you need a power supply, if your current power supply won't cut it for a nice high-end card like this, less than $30 will get you a very good card. I actually own two of these. I've already put one into a machine in a build that you'll see coming up soon. This is another one I have for another build that I'm going to be doing. For less than $30, that's all that most people need. So there's a power supply option. I mentioned the RGB lighting. The only downside to MSI's cards when it comes to RGB lighting is the red plastic on the card, which I'll show you when I unbox it in a second. While you can change the color of the lights, you can't change the plastic. If by chance you don't like the red and black color scheme, MSI also makes a card called the Armor, and it's black and white rather than red and white. So if you're interested in MSI, if you're interested in a larger card but you don't like the red, buy the MSI Armor instead. MSI is also known for something else within the graphics card industry, MSI Afterburner. If you've watched my recent full-screen game performance videos and you've seen red numbers in the upper right-hand corner, those are from MSI Afterburner. Now that tool, that application works with almost any video card, but it comes out from MSI, and of course it will let you overclock these cards, and you'll see that. I will do a video actually showing the use of that to increase the clock speed of the memory and the clock speed of the actual GTX 1060 chip in a future video. Beyond that, let me talk to you about the 1060 series in general, how it compares to, say, the 1050 and 1070, and then what AMD makes that it compares with. Then I'll open this up and show you the card. If you've got a $200 budget, your other available choice besides the GTX 1060 is the AMD RX 480, which is also about $200. Would I buy the 480 over the 1060? It's a personal preference. They're both very similar in performance. It just comes down to whether you like AMD's cards or NVIDIA's cards. Do you like the AMD software or do you like the NVIDIA software? Do you have a preference of brand? MSI, by the way, sells Gaming X versions of the RX 480, so you can certainly buy one of those if you're interested. They do consume more power, over 150 watts. So if you're in an area where power consumption is a concern, that's one of the nice things about the 1060, which uses less power, but it's honestly not a huge difference. I personally wouldn't pick one or the other over a 30 watt power consumption difference. What about the other NVIDIA cards? Below the 1060, you have the new GTX 1050 Ti and 1050. Now, when I did my previous 1060 videos, those cards didn't exist, but now they do. The 1050 Ti is $140 for the basic card, versus $200 for this. But it's a lot less performance. The 1060 is actually a much better deal than the 1050 Ti in terms of raw performance. It's about 75% faster than the 1050 Ti for less than 75% more money. That being said, the 1050 Ti's great claim to fame is it doesn't require a PCI Express power connector. Thus, you don't need a power supply, and that's really why that card exists. So if you're asking, do I buy a 1050 Ti or this? If you can handle the need for the PCI Express power connector, 1060 all day long. What about the GTX 1070? Now, I've reviewed the GTX 1070 in the past. In fact, I did a 7-card review of the 1070. It's a great card. I love it. However, price to performance is not that great. Why? $400 for a GTX 1070 versus $200 for a GTX 1060. The 1070 is double the money, but it's only 50% faster. So 50% faster for 100% more money. From a purely price to performance perspective, that's not a deal. Now, if you want to game above 1080p, the 1070 is still what I recommend. If you want to do 1440p or even 4K gaming, that's where you got to be. But for 1080p gaming, the 1070 is overkill in my opinion. The only people who should really consider buying a 1070 for 1080p gaming are high refresh gamers. If you have a 100 hertz or a 144 hertz monitor, okay, this is not going to game at high or ultra detail at 1080p at 100 to 144 frames per second. It just won't. You need to spend more money. But for most people on a 60 hertz monitor, which is what most monitors are, this is all you need. Now what about previous generation cards? The previous generation to the 1060 was the 960. For a long time, the GTX 960 was sold for about $200. Good card. The standard configuration was a 2 GB model, but they did make a 4 GB model at some point during the run, and those are still good cards. However, this is much faster than a 960. How much faster? Not quite double the performance. Depends upon the game you're looking at. I've seen a low of 50% faster in my testing, and I've seen up to double the performance in some games. On average, I would call it 70 to 75% faster than a 960. That's a huge performance jump. Usually in one generation of cards from one to the next, you don't get a 70+% performance improvement from, say, a 960 to a 1060. That is a lot of difference. If you have something older, such as a 760 or 660, oh, by all means, it is absolutely time to upgrade. This is far and away an improvement over those previous cards. Now, if you have an older AMD card, maybe you have one of the old HD 7000 series, such as a 7950 or 7930, yes, this is a dramatic performance improvement over those. If you have an older AMD card, such as an AMD 290 or even 280X, it's not that much of a performance improvement. AMD has been pretty flat for a while. They had a nice jump a couple years ago. So if you have anything from, say, the 285, 290 series, or you've got something from the 300 series of 380X or up, this isn't that much of a performance improvement. I wouldn't jump to something like this, just like I wouldn't replace a 290 or 390 with an RX 480. It's not really a performance improvement. But if you're coming from something older, yes, it is. Now that's enough of that. How about we take a look at a graphics card, shall we? This is a nice big box. How do we want to open this? If you've seen many of my graphics card videos, you know that I talk about them for a while and then I do an unboxing. Some people like unboxing, some people don't. It's a graphics card in a box, what can I say? But here it is. I will take my plastic and throw it into my handy dandy plastic pile, which I clean up from time to time. I will say one thing I like about this particular box is it is a fairly large, heavy-duty box that feels well protected. It opens on the top rather than the side, which I like. And I'll show you the insides right there. You can see that we've got 2 thumb holes to pull the whole thing out. That is very nice. The quality of the packaging on MSI's cards is better than most other companies. Take a look at this. Compared to, for example, the EVGA, which comes in a bubble envelope and a anti-static bag, and that's it. This is really nice. You probably can't see it, but that actually has screened right on there, MSI Gaming Series. This top box probably contains, if it does contain a driver CD at all, oh, it does, okay. A driver CD, which you should not use. Go to NVIDIA.com, download the latest drivers. You shouldn't use that. And as far as MSI's own program, MSI Afterburner, go to MSI.com and download it as well. Don't use an outdated version. What else is in here? We've got some stickers. If you care about these and want to put them on your case, you've got a couple of MSI stickers. And then, what do we have here? MSI Graphics Card Quick User's Guide. Actually, this looks kind of nice. Written in 22 languages. Oh, okay, that might be more than 22. That is 16 different languages. The English instructions are just this box. And then on the back, we have another 16. There are 32 languages on this. Fair enough. They make one package for the whole world, I suppose. And then there's a little picture graph showing how to install a graphics card. If you have never installed a graphics card, you should absolutely watch YouTube videos showing how to do it, because You know what? I'm not even going to try to fold that back up. That is a mess. Is there anything else in here? Nope. So the only thing of any real value in that cardboard box was the stickers, and frankly, I'm not going to use those either. Inside, we have the foam. I know that's not very exciting. Take the foam off, and there is a little thing here saying, thank you for choosing an MSI product. Please register here at our web address so we can send you junk mail. I'm not jaded, I swear. And inside, take a look at that. That is packed really nicely. I give credit to MSI, all the nonsense. I give credit. This is in foam, protected by an anti-static bag in a good, solid cardboard box. Any graphics card company watching this, if you're not packing your graphics card like this, shame on you. This is nice. That's a huge card, too. I may do an upcoming video where I've got some more 1060s now. I may put them side by side together. That is a huge card. Ooh, and it's got a nice backplate. I don't remember if I noticed if the others had a backplate on them. I know the Superclock does not. The Asus Strix Republic of Gamers does. Whoa, that's very nice. And heavy. You can't see weight on a YouTube video. This is a very heavy card. Now there is a sticker here, and basically what it's doing is it's cautioning you that this has 0 fan speed technology. What is that? Where am I going to put this? I'll stick this here on the driver's CD, which I'm going to throw away anyway. Recycle. These fans do not spin until you're gaming, so the card is completely, absolutely silent until you're actually gaming. They've got good power-saving technology. You can see the red plastic right here, which you can't really do anything with. I suppose you could technically paint it, but that's not something most people are going to want to do. Then you've got lights right here, and then you've got your 2 big fans. On the top, you've got the MSI logo, which I don't think lights up, but the dragon next to it I believe does, but we'll find out when I plug it in. And then you have got the 8-pin PCI Express power connector up here. Now here's something that's nice. If you look at this graphics card, let me show you the back plate of the card. This here, where my finger is actually the height of the standard PCI slot. Look how much higher. The card is a full inch taller than a standard slot. If you have a mini tower small compact case, this may not fit, not lengthwise, height-wise. This is much taller than your average graphics card. It's a full inch above your plate where your PCI Express slot connects. However, they have done something nice. They have slightly recessed the 8-pin PCI Express power connector so it is not right up at the top. This means when you plug the cable in and bend it over, it will not extend too far above the actual card itself. When I tilt it on its end, you can see the multiple heat pipes here, and I will turn it around so you can see the bottom. There are multiple heat pipes here as well. Nothing you really have to do anything with. There's a very nice red MSI protector on the golden fingers where you plug it into the motherboard. And then the ports on the back are completely standard. I'll just take the protective covers off and I'll briefly mention the ports. You have 5 video ports on the back. You have one HDMI 2.0B port. This will support up to 4K at 60 Hertz. Now you might say, wait a minute, I thought you said this wasn't a 4K, this was a 1080p gaming card. That's right. But if by chance you have a 4K television or a very nice 4K monitor, but you want to game at 1080p, that's fine. 1080p is exactly 25% the resolution. It's half horizontal and half vertical of a 4K monitor. I can tell you from personal experience, if you plug this into a 4K monitor, which I have, and you set the game resolution to 1080p, which I have, it's gorgeous. There's no jaggies, there's no softness, it scales beautifully. So if you have a 4K television or a 4K monitor, but you want to game at 1080p, and maybe you just have the 4K monitor because, for example, you're doing Windows productivity at 4K, but you're okay to game at 1080p, then you can absolutely plug this into a 4K television or 4K monitor and it will display gorgeous images and then upscale the 1080p, perfectly matching that 4K resolution. The other 3 ports along the bottom are DisplayPort 1.4. These will actually support 8K resolution, not that it's going to make any difference because nobody buying this card in 2016 is likely to have an 8K display before it matters. but they do technically support it. They also support 4K at 120 Hz, also something you probably will never have. But it's good that they put it into the card because it sets up future support in future generations of cards so that monitor companies can start coming out with better monitors and better televisions. The port up here is a dual-link DVI-D port. Let me be clear, DVI-D, not DVI-I. What is the difference between DVI-D and DVI-I? DVI-D is digital only. It will not support one of the inexpensive VGA to DVI adapters to allow you to plug an old school VGA monitor into this card. They had that support on the 960, but it's gone on the 1060. Now, can you use a VGA monitor with this card? Yes, but you've got to use an active adapter that plugs into the display port. They're about $10. You can buy them on Amazon or Newegg, and basically you plug it in and it's a small cable about this long and it provides you a VGA port. It's not ideal. I strongly recommend that if you have a digital port on your monitor, by all means you should be using it, HDMI, DVI, or DisplayPort. DVI does not support 4K. It's gone as far as it's going to, but it does support up to 1440p, and you can absolutely connect multiple monitors. Brief mention of multiple monitors. This is not really meant to play on multiple monitors in terms of like having multiple screens that you spread your game across. NVIDIA has a technology called Surround. I've used it. It's actually really nice. It allows you to connect, for example, 3 monitors and treat them as one, so that you basically have a super ultra widescreen gaming experience. But you really need a 1070 or 1080 to have the horsepower and VRAM to be able to do that properly. However, what if you have 2 monitors? Many people like to game on one monitor while having another monitor to have a web browser or chat room, or maybe watch Netflix or YouTube videos such as this. You can absolutely plug 2 or more monitors in, gaming on a single 1080p monitor and having 1 or 2 more regular Windows desktops that are simply displaying web browsers does not dramatically remove performance. You can absolutely do that. Game on one while having Windows open in the other, and you can move your mouse back and forth, set your game to full screen windowed mode, which most modern games support these days, and then you can simply come over, go to your web browser, go to your chat box, go to whatever you're doing on the other screen, and then come back to the game over here, and performance is almost exactly the same as just having one monitor. Maybe 1 or 2% less. It is a very, very minor performance difference. You'll never notice it. So you can absolutely plug multiple monitors. It'll work really, really well. So that's the graphics card. Recent price drop down close to $200. All those links will be in the description below. Again, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be testing this against the small single fan EVGA Superclock 1063 gig card to see whether this big cooler and all these fans, and she almost dropped it there, and the big 8-pin PCI Express power connector makes any difference in overclocking, and whether or not the performance difference is actually noticeable, or whether it's just a big honkin' fancy cooler. I don't know yet. I just opened it. We'll find out. Like this video if you like it. Don't if you don't. Remember to subscribe to my channel. Questions and comments in the comment box below. And as always, use the links in my video description if you want to support my channel. Amazon, Newegg, eBay are all listed down there. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.